Why would anyone flood their own tunnel with a bunch of HOA bigwigs trapped inside? Picture this: water surging, SUVs sinking, and me, perched on a ridge with a glass of iced tea, watching the chaos unfold like it's the season finale of a reality show. Sounds insane, right? Well, let me tell you how I got here, how the president of the Oak Ridge HOA ended up soaked, screaming, and learning the hard way what happens when you mess with a man's land. It all started with the kind of quiet you only find on inherited property, the kind that feels like a secret whispered through generations. My granddad bought this place in 1946, fresh off the war, when the county was more pasture than pavement. He built the tunnel himself well. He paid a crew in cash, beer, and peach cobbler to dig it. Wide enough for cattle, horses, and a beat-up tractor, it ran under the county road, a clever way to keep livestock off the asphalt. Over the years, that tunnel became more than a crossing. It was a hidden path from the barn to the backfield, a piece of family history. When Granddad passed, I ditched my desk job in the city, bought his tools off my cousins, and moved back to keep the place alive. I fixed the steel gates, cleared the brush, and made sure those 28 acres, wrapping around the edge of Oak Ridge Estates like a horseshoe, stayed pristine. Oak Ridge, by the way, was one of those gated communities that looked like it was ripped from a glossy magazine and dropped into the countryside. We coexisted fine until they started their Phase 4 expansion. At first, it was just survey trucks creeping along my fence line. Then came teenagers on e-bikes, zipping through like they owned the place. One day, I spotted a plastic stake jabbed into my property, a little red flag screaming trouble. I yanked it out, tossed it, and figured that was that. But 2 weeks later, I found orange spray paint glowing in front of my pasture gate. Then the gravel trucks rolled in. I came home from picking up feed to find them pavying over my livestock path, smoothing out hoof ruts with limestone, running a compactor like they were building a highway. I thought it was a utility mix-up until I saw the workers' shirts. Oak Ridge Improvement Committee, in bold white letters on navy polos, like some suburban sweat team. A guy with a clipboard started yapping about permit codes, claiming my tunnel was now part of their multi-use trail plan. My tunnel. Older than their entire neighborhood. I told them to stop. They didn't. They just grinned, said to call Lisa Harper, the HOA president, former realtor, now queen of mailbox regulations. I tried emailing her. Bounced. Her assistant wouldn't give me her number. Then they ripped my gate off. I drove out one morning to check the southern fence and found my welded steel gate lying in the weeds, cut clean at the base. In its place? A wide-open tunnel mouth. They'd paved the inside, slapped solar lights on the concrete arch, and yet disinstalled a keypad lock on the northern end. I couldn't even walk through my own tunnel without buzzing in like a pizza guy. They didn't ask, didn't warn, just assumed it was theirs. Later, I learned they'd slipped in emergency access integration request into some school bus reroute paperwork from years back, buried where no one would notice. Once the tunnel was ready, they tore up Oak Ridge's original access row out a winding mile of asphalt through the hills. I watched them chew it to dust, levying nothing but dirt and dead grass. Now, the only way in or out of their fancy neighborhood was through my tunnel. My private, deed-protected livestock tunnel. Minivans, bike trailers, and joggers started pouring through like it was a public park. One woman even parked on my grass to let her dog pee. When I called her out, she smirked and said, "Talk to the board." That's when something snapped. I started documenting. Snapped photos of every car, every tire mark on my soil. Logged dates, times, license plates. Counted the HOA's security golf cart zipping through twice a day like they were cops. I dug out Granddad's deed from a tin box in the barn. What I found in the fine print made my blood sing. They'd screwed up big. They'd stolen something they had no claim to, and I was about to make them regret every wheel rut, every smug wave from Lisa's BMW as she cruised through like she owned the place. They took my tunnel. I was gonna take it all back. First, I walked the old road's path with a measuring wheel and a notebook. That road had been solid 2 lanes striped, with a pull-off for ambulances, built in 2004. Worn, sure, but fixable. Yet, according to HOA meeting minutes, thanks to a board member named Jenny who owed me for towing her truck last winter, they voted to demolish it, claiming safety issues and drainage problems. Cost? $482,000 just to rip it up. No new road plan, just my tunnel as their alternate ingress. A county estimate from the prior year priced a full repave at $190,000, with state grants available. So why'd they do it? It wasn't about safety. It was about funneling every Oak Ridge resident through my land, turning my tunnel into Lisa's personal shortcut empire. I tried the county zoning meeting. Wore a clean shirt, stayed polite, laid out the gate theft, the fence damage, the illegal PAVYing. Got nods, a few pitying looks. Then some suit whispered to the zoning chair, and they brushed me off like I was whining about a pothole. A week later, a letter arrived, stamped, no signature, saying the HOA's access infrastructure was compliant. That's when I quit playing nice. I camped out at the county records office, bribing clerks with coffee and donuts. Pulled every plat, map, permit, and easement from the last decade. The HOA's road demo was filed as infrastructure decommissioning, but their tunnel paperwork called it an emergency egress enhancement. They claimed it was a fire-round news to the fire department, who didn't even have it on their maps. The tunnel was zoned as a private agricultural undercrossing since 1947, non-commercial, non-easement. No one could touch it without my say-so. Then I hit gold. Old FEMA flood maps showed the tunnel in a 100-year flood overflow zone for Brush Creek. PAVYing it violat state flood laws. The HOA's latest map? They'd whited out the flood designation, relabeling it a green corridor. Approved in 12 days, normally a 90-day process by a county inspector named Greg Larson. Guess who's Lisa's cousin? Greg. I sent an anonymous tip to the ethics board, not expecting much. But the real jackpot was in Grandad's strongbox, a 1937 land covenant, handwritten, signed by the original ranch owner and the county. It banned the tunnel from commercial or residential traffic forever. The HOA had no easement, no rights. I took it to a lawyer, Sarah Klein, a 4-H buddy who lived for property disputes. She read it, grinned, and said, "This is a slam dunk." I didn't just want to win. I wanted them to feel it. I set up cameras, trail sensors, infrared lights. Logged every car, every timestamp. Caught Lisa's husband, Tom, using the tunnel for real estate tours, selling my land as a premium greenway feature. Greed, not just entitlement. They saw my tunnel as free real estate, a budget hack paved with backroom deals. But I had history, proof, and a plan to make them sorry. They announced the Oak Ridge Tunnel Parade, a community event to celebrate their shiny new shortcut. Flyers bragged about a pancake breakfast, a balloon arch, and Lisa's name in big, curly font. They'd paved my land, erased flood codes, cut me out, and now they wanted to strut through like VY tours. I barely slept, not from nerves, but because I was rigging floodgates. 2 weeks out, I cleared a rusted creek intake, fitted it with a backflow valve from a scrapped feed mill. Upstream, at the spring-feeding Brush Creek, I built a second gate, pressure-sealed, tied to a release lever hidden in a hay bale. Both were remote-triggered via signal relay and my phone. I tested it. The pasture flooded in 15 minutes, enough to scare, not kill. I tipped off a journalist, Mia Chin, who hated HOAs after one fined her dad over his barn's paint. I handed her everything: photos, maps, permits, Greg's cousin Link, the missing grant money. She was buzzing, ready to film the parade. I told her to bring waiters. The rain came, a steady spring drizzle that raised the water table. Perfect. I parked my truck on the ridge, out of sight, with coffee, binoculars, and Granddad's rifle, just in case. At 9:13 a.m., Lisa's white Tahoe rolled up, a board president, sash gleaming. A convoy followed: Lexus, Subaru, Ford Expedition, golf carts with streamers, one guy with an inflatable eagle on his roof. They had no clue they were driving into a trap. At the tunnel's far end, volunteers set up a finish line with chairs and a speaker blaring folk tunes. Mia was there, camera rolling. The plan: let 5 cars enter, enough for gridlock, then flood it. I'd welded steel barriers, cattle guards, and a hydraulic jack hinge to slam shut with 1,000 pounds of force. Lisa gave a speech, while VYing her clipboard, all community spirit nonsense. The parade started. Her Tahoe, a Lexus with a tacky plate, a Subaru, the HOA secretary's Camry, then Mike, the treasurer, in his expedition. 5 cars, 24 wheels, Dula 150,000 of suburbia. I hit the floodgate app. 3 seconds later, pipes roared. I pressed the second switch, and the gates slammed shut, the clang echoing like a shotgun. Brake lights flared, horns blared, but the tunnel's curve hid the water until it hit their bumpers. Brown runoff from the pasture mixed with clear spring water, ankle deep in a minute, door high in 2. Volunteers scattered. A golf cart smashed a chair. Lisa climbed out, yelling, probably at Mike. Someone tried a walkie-talkie. Dead. The water didn't care. It poured through their floorboards, nature doing what it does. From the ridge, I watched them flail. The Ford backed into the Subaru. Lisa waved her arms like she could stop the flood. They'd blocked the old road, trashed my gate, bet everything on my tunnel, and now it was their bathtub. Mia's camera caught every second. The rain kept falling. The water rose. Lisa looked up, saw me, and froze. I tipped my hat, then strolled down not to save them, just to chat. Sirens wailed later, after the screams faded. Fire crews waded in with bolt cutters and thermal cameras, asking questions I didn't answer. I'd opened the gates enough to drain it, no one hurt, just humbled. Lisa, wrapped in a foil blanket, barked at a chuckling firefighter. Her BMW wouldn't start, electronics fried. Someone muttered, "That's what you get for dodging permits." I might have smirked. That night, Mia's footage hit the news, dubbed Floodgate. Lisa's voice echoed as water lapped her knees, cars banged bumpers, board members climbed roofs like kids. Mia didn't stop there. She interviewed a county engineer about the flood violation, a former treasurer about Lisa's cousin's shady contract, a clerk pressured to skip paperwork. Drone shots showed the warp tunnel, captioned, "Built on lies." The HOA imploded. Lisa's statement blamed unforeseen weather. But the public records grant fraud, fake permits buried her. The DA charged her with fraud, falsifying records, and trespass. She lawyered up, but the EVY Denke was ironclad. I sued for trespass, damage, and illegal construction. Won full damages, a restored tunnel, and a 500-foot HOA construction ban. They tried to appeal. Lost. Their board collapsed when only 2 showed up to a meeting, one quitting when reporters asked about missing funds. The county dissolved the HOA. The tunnel was mine again. I hired a welder, Nate, to build a new gate, steel, padlocked, with a sign, "Private access. Trespassers will be enlightened." Then I painted a mural with local kids, a sinking SUV, water to its mirrors, captioned, "Shortcut to consequences." Lisa and her board, cartoon style, clutched clipboards and garden flags. The town loved it. The Arts Council called it CIVYC Art. The zoning board asked me to join as an alternate, citing my floodplain expertise. I said yes, not for power, but to watch the table. Oak Ridge softened without the HOA. Neighbors planted wildflowers, kids drew on sidewalks, trash cans stayed out. Some left, scared of lawlessness. Most stayed, brought pies, notes, even a Lego tunnel with a tiny Lisa inside. Her BMW stayed, half sunk, ivy in its wheels, birds in its cup holders. She fled to Florida, to a condo with strict curtain rules. I'd sit above the tunnel, tea in hand, watching sunlight hit that wrecked windshield. The town called it junk. I called it justice. And when the breeze carried the faint stink of flooded leather and HOA ego, I'd sip, lean back, and grin.